Hi, everybody. This is Patty Sliney, Handy Quilter National Educator. And we've had some questions coming up on our Facebook groups about the difference between an area in Pro Stitcher and the Quilting Space tool, and that's specifically in Pro Stitcher Premium. It has a similar equivalent in Pro Stitcher Lite, and it's called Frame Space, but I'm going to focus on Pro Stitcher Premium users today and talk about Quilting Space. There are some people who are not really familiar with this really wonderful tool that we got in version 537, which is why it's always great to update because you get new functions, features, and tools, as well as bug fixes. And this is one of the ones we got in version 537 way back. So what are the two things? What do they do? How are they different? Okay, both of those tools can be found. Our area tools can be found on the area tab as well as Quilting Space in Pro Stitcher Premium. So most of you are familiar with a two-corner area tool as well as multi-point area tool. I'm going to focus on two-corner because this is where people seem to get confused between Quilting Space and two-corner area. Two different things. So your area, when you are plotting an area on your quilt top, you are literally, if you're going to use this tool, the two-corner tool, you are plotting 2 points that will create a rectangle, and that is telling Pro Stitcher where you want to stitch your design. So in general, that's what the area does, and you plot it on your quilt top physically, manually, with your hands on the handlebars, looking at your quilt top and placing your needle where you want your area points to be. So for example, let's say you're making all over edge to edge quilt and you want to create your two corner area because you want to create the entire design for your quilt top. So you're going to put your hands on the handlebars and you're going to move your machine needle about a half an inch above the top edge of your quilt top and about an inch, inch and a half to the left of the left edge of your quilt top. So you're in the batting. You're in the batting about a half an inch above your quilt top and about an inch to an inch and a half to the left of the left edge of your quilt top. And then you're either going to use your star button on your handlebar or you're going to use the star button in the area tab ribbon. Don't go back and forth between those two things. Either stick to your button in the ribbon or stick to the button on your handlebars for both points. So you're going to set the first point. Then you're going to put your hands back on the handlebars and you're going to move it way over. Let's say we've got a baby quilt. It's about 40 inches wide. I'm going to come forward towards me, towards the front bar. Don't have to go too far forward, but you want to come off of the horizontal line from your first point. So you can see here's my horizontal crosshair. It's not on the point, my first two corner point. And I'm about maybe an inch and a half, inch and a half to the right of the right edge of my quilt top. So I'm going to go ahead and place my second point. And then I'm going to touch into the area height box and I'm going to enter the length of my quilt, which in Pro Stitcher we call it height. And I like to add about 6 extra inches. So my height is going to be 6 inches bigger than my quilt top length. So let's say my quilt top was 40 inches. I will make it 46 inches. I'm going to press enter and I'm going to touch refresh. And you can see I have created my area, which is 40 by 46, and it says so right here. And that's going to be my area. This is where I'm telling Pro Stitcher, hey, Pro Stitcher, I'm going to open a design up, excuse me, and I'm going to repeat it in my area by going to the repeat fill. I'm going to add some repeats here. So I'm overlapping and overlap a little more. So I have a little wiggle room in case I want to move this design around. And then I'm going to overlap the top and bottom edge. I'm going to baseline that. Now I'm going to go ahead to modify, crop, and I'm going to crop outside and close the edges. And then I'm going to baseline. And then I would do a file, save, select it, and save it to my flash drive. So I've created my all over edge to edge. I'm telling Pro Stitcher, hey Pro Stitcher, you know where this area is because I plotted it physically on my quilt top. This is where I want you to stitch the design out on my quilt top. So now I want to create a quilting space. And what is a quilting space? It is a visual cue that you can create in Pro Stitcher. Doesn't really tell Pro Stitcher to do anything. It tells you where it's safe to stitch in your throat space without hitting your side clamps over here or without hitting your take-up bar or your belly bars. So I'm going to again put my hands on the handlebars and I'm going to move my machine needle and I'm going to go and I'm going to touch the take-up bar and then come down a wee bit, maybe quarter inch, half an inch, not too much because I want to give myself every possible square inch in my quilting space that's safe to stitch. I don't want to shortchange myself. And then I'm going to move over and I'm going to touch my side clamp and then come in a little bit, about an inch away from my side clamp. So I'm at the take-up bar, forward about a quarter to a half an inch, at the left side clamp, and then to the right about an inch. Now I'm going to set my first quilting space point. And so this is where my needle is on my quilt top. Okay, so now I put my hands back on the handlebars and I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the same thing, only opposite. I'm going to come over and I'm going to touch my belly bar and then I'm going to come up about a half an inch and that's probably a little generous. We'll say right about here. I'm going to touch my belly bar and then come up about a quarter inch or so and then touch my right side clamp and then come over about an inch because I sure don't want to hit a side clamp. Let me tell you, just a warning. You hit a side clamp with your needle, those side clamps, they're pretty hard and you can do some damage to your machine. Definitely you're going to throw it out of time, but you can even damage the needle bar. So that's why I love this quilting space. It's going to prevent you from a possible $300 trip to your tech. All right, so I've got my needle at my belly bar, up about a quarter inch, half inch, at my right side clamp, and then to the left a little bit, about an inch. Then I'm going to set my second quilting space point. So I've plotted those 2 points, and now we'll create in Premium this black rectangular visual cue. And that will tell me how wide my quilting space is and the height of my quilting space, which for me on a 24-inch machine would be about right. It'd be around 18 inches, give or take some. Okay, so I know it is safe to stitch in this area right now. Okay, I can stitch the first partial row. I can stitch the second row without advancing, and I can stitch even the third row without advancing. Can't stitch the fourth row. As you can see, half of that fourth row is below the bottom edge of my quilting space, and I can check that out. All I have to do is put my hands on the handlebars, take my needle, come down, come down. I can probably get to about here, and then I'm going to be hitting my belly bar, okay? My front bars. So this gives me a target that I can use as I advance my quilt. So if I advance my quilt, let's say I've stitched out row 1, 2, and 3, and now I'm ready to stitch row 4. Clearly, I've got to advance. Not a problem. I'm going to put my needle on a spot here, drop my needle down. I'm going to touch, drag, turns into drop, and then I'm going to advance my quilt, and I'm looking at this row right here. That's row 4. That has to come inside this quilting space for me to be able to safely stitch it. See how the quilting space doesn't move? It stays static like your area. So I'm watching, let me go back here, row 1, 2, 3. Okay, I just need to know which row is 4. and I'm going up, and this is row 4 right here. So I can go up, I can go up, I can go up, I can go up. I'd probably go right about here. Why? Because row 4 is still below the top edge of my quilting space, so I'm safe. I'm not going to hit my take-up bar. But that also fits in row 5 and row 6. So I can even stitch row 6 out. So I'm happy with that advance. I touch drop, and then I know when I touch resume, my machine is going to come back here to the start of row 4, and it is below this black top edge of my quilting space. So the top part of this row is not going to hit my take-up bar. It's way above my front bars here. So I can stitch row 4 out, row 5, and even row 6. So I hope that that clarifies the difference between what these two things do. A two-corner area is plotted with two corners. You can adjust the height, and it tells Pro Stitcher where you want to stitch out on your quilt top. You're literally mapping it out. It's just like a plotting program in high school geometry. Same. You are telling Pro Stitcher it's the design needs to stitch in here. The quilting space is for you. It's telling you where it's safe to stitch within your throat space without hitting any bars or any side clamps. Both of these things stay static. They don't move when you drag and drop. The only thing that moves is the design, which is awesome. And we don't even really need the area at this point. I'm going to baseline, and I'll show you why we don't need the area, because sometimes it can be a little distracting. You can just clear your area. And now when you go to drag and drop, and let's say we've stitched row 5, 6, or 4, 5, and 6, and we want to stitch out row 7. So I would just put my needle at the bottom of that last row I stitched. Again, touch drag, and I want to move these next rows, what is this, 7, 8, and 9 in, and I'm going to just do that. And I'm looking, and there we go. 7, 8, and 9 fit right in here. I'm going to drop it. I'm going to move my crosshairs off so you can see. Okay, so we've got row 7, which is below the top edge of my quilting space. 8 and 9, and row 9 is above, so they fit. So that's the difference. Getting rid of the area makes it really simple to see how Quilting Space works as a target and a tool for you to know how to advance your quilt and get it advanced perfectly so you don't over advance or under advance, and you will never hit a bar or a side clamp again. Wonderful tool. I want you to practice it on your machine. I use it for everything, whether I'm doing all over edge to edge or custom quilting. I always set up a quilting space because then I know where it's safe to stitch. I'm never going to risk hitting a bar or, God forbid, hitting a side clamp with my needle. And that saves me a trip to the tech, which could be pretty costly. All right. Happy quilting, folks. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to post on the Pro Stitcher Quilters Facebook group, tag me, and I'd be happy to answer.